Alright, let's begin, folks. I'm here on LinkedIn, I'm here on YouTube. I'll just send a message to people on WhatsApp and then we will begin. The show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. Yeah. Good morning, Nishant says, Mr. Sumant Kumar. Mr. Kumar, if you could hear me, just give me a quick approval, quick affirmative so we could begin because we are very, very late today. And we'll have to have a very quick, fast session so that we don't lose out. Yes, perfect. So let's begin. Bum bum bum, bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people, husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go. But before we go, gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition? You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a copper mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like hot water with black pepper in it. Here we go. Nice. Let's do it again. Beautiful. Healing. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you're not alone. It says that we're in this together. That's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. I'm sorry for being late today. So I was stuck with an article. I was stuck with a bond-related, complicated finance, jargon-filled article. And it wasted a lot of time for me because I tried to understand what they were trying to say. And I wasn't being able to get it, right? I said, what is going on? So I started reading about it. And then I found out that these people had just mistakenly written something wrong, right? So they had a typographical error due to which I had a 20-minute detour. So sorry for that, but let's begin. So IT scrambles for benchmarks as clients eye outcome-based deals. As AI remakes IT services businesses, large deal renewals are moving to fee-based on outcomes. Well, we've been hearing about this for a very, very long time, that IT is more towards outcomes, it's less towards fee, it's less towards time and material cost. They're now looking at more outcome-based things and so on and so forth. But it's a nothing burger. Mostly it stays business as usual. Mostly it stays as little tweaks, incremental changes as far as the whole IT play is considered. Nothing big has happened as of now in the real deal renewal space. It's not like some $1 billion deal was negotiated to $200 million just because of AI. So a lot of this is a nothing burger, but yet AI heavy engagements are priced 25 to 40% below legacy run costs, with providers absorbing delivery risk, right? Experts say 20 to 30% of fees in IT are now linked to business outcomes like faster claim cycles and improved customer NPS, Net Promoter Score. So that's what's going on. Has been going on for a very long time, so we would not discuss it too much, right? The bottom line is we don't have yet have industry-wide benchmarks the way we did with hourly rates, but some clear patterns are emerging. So hourly rates, man hours, man days, time and material models, they've been said for a very long time. But when it comes to these AI led, uh, essentially outcome based pricing, that's not yet benchmark led, right? So it's an ongoing conversation. I read a very interesting view, by the way, which I should share, which has been very opposite my view on the AI thing. So I've always said that AI is going to lead to a lot of job losses, right? I've said that AI is going to replace a lot of, basically just cut trees. So a person who used to call, right, for customer engagement, customer sales, customer service, he won't have to call because people will start using AI, and AI will replicate calls, and which is happening, which is already happening. So a lot of companies have come out with voice AI features, and they are working, right? And I have always believed that it's gonna lead to a massive wave of job losses, right, across the board. But a contrary view, which Scott Adams sir has published, or let's say laid out is that most jobs that humans do are bullshit jobs. Okay, they don't add anything, they don't mean anything. They're just reports that you write, so that other people who can read those reports can write, so that other people who can read those reports can write. So it's basically a chain of bullshit jobs which don't mean anything. Okay, and most of what humans do at office, in companies, especially large organizations, they are bullshit jobs, and there is no way to cut down on bullshit jobs. That's what he said. Now that's a very uh, beautiful and interesting view on life in general, and definitely on AI. So if most of what humans do is bullshit, how can AI replace it? Right? Uh, this is this is pretty interesting, right? Mr. Tiwari says this honestly is rare. Bullshit jobs. No, they're not that rare, Mr. Tiwari. They're not as rare as you would like to believe them. So I was just thinking about this very deeply, and I said, yeah, this happens a lot. Now, where Scott Adams sir and other people might just be wrong is that this usually happens in large and bureaucratic organizations. The whole concept of bullshit jobs, that's a very, very ubiquitous thing when it comes to large and bureaucratic organizations where just most people are just keeping the wheels turning, right? But most of the economy doesn't come from large and bureaucratic organizations. Most of the economic activity comes from small businesses. And small businesses cut corners all the time, everywhere, right? And since small businesses don't have a lot of bullshit jobs, uh, would AI still lead to job losses? It should. It should. So this is just a contrarian view that I wanted to share. Contrary to my view, I sincerely believe that it's going to lead to a lot of job losses. But this particular view or perspective was very, very interesting. So hence I shared it. The concept of bullshit jobs. Now, similarly in AI, if we are talking, Lionsgate is one of the largest. Uh, Mr. Tiwari has a comment. Honesty about bullshit jobs is rare. Everyone assumes they are doing something important. Exactly, but they are doing a bullshit job. Is the play, right? So if they are doing a bullshit job and they want it to be important, with what are you gonna replace it using AI? What's the AI gonna do? That's the play, right? And that's exactly what Scott Adams sir is saying. So you probably are saying the same thing. Now, an example of this is Lionsgate. Okay, Lionsgate is one of the largest, a very prominent Hollywood movie producer, and they've been working for a year on AI based movies. Okay, and they said that we're gonna try this technology out, and every day on Twitter, on other social networking platforms, we see AI led videos, right? 30-second videos and so on and so forth. And we see AI is gonna change the movie making business. AI is gonna change the movie making business because if it can make like a 30-second clip, You could just repeat it and it'll make an entire movie, right? But Lionsgate has been doing this for a year, and they say that we are giving up on this technology because it's not possible to make a movie using AI as yet. Even though John Travolta has been signed with an AI thriller, but the point is AI led thriller or AI assisted thriller, or whatever that means. But these people have said that we can't make a movie using AI. Okay. Now the question is, when these people were trying this out, who were the people who were actually testing that technology, right? The creatives, the guy who actually do the work without AI. Now, how uh, motivated would they be to actually replace themselves? Is a very, very solid question. So when you're talking about replacing AI, or sorry, replacing humans, humans are on the way, right? So how much of that is gonna turn out? Now, some people might say that, oh, Nishant, it doesn't matter if movies or producers don't use AI, because 95% of the content that humans consume on the social media apps and all, it's not movies, right? It's just random BS that it's generated, a lot of it by AI. So even if movies don't turn AI and just 30 seconds clips turn AI, a lot of people will be watching that 30-second clip instead of actually watching a full movie. So in a way, you would be replacing humans, because humans were making movies. 30-second clips were not being made by people, right? Humans. So if people start watching 30-second clips which are made by AI, humans in a nutshell get replaced. So that's another perspective, right? A contrary perspective to that, yet again, is somebody called Mr. Naval Ravikant has said that art and creations are meaningless without creators, right? Now, he says that it doesn't matter how great an art piece, a video, a piece of music, or whatever somebody creates, if it's not created by a human. So, a human gives meaning to an art form, to a creation. So, if I create a song, if I spend hundreds of hours creating a song, which I do, right? I have over 20 songs uh, on the internet, and I've poured my heart and soul into it. Thousands and thousands of hours, lakhs and lakhs of money has gone into making those songs, right? Now, if if AI makes a song in like 16 seconds, right? Mr. Naval Ravikant says that it doesn't mean anything because people will be more concerned towards Nishant Mittal as an artist, right, as a musician, instead of AI just creating a song. Now, that is one perspective. The contrary perspective is 99% of people don't give a shit, neither about Nishant Mittal or about AI or who's created that piece of music. 99% of people just are blind. They put their music on lead, like path of least resistance. They just listen to the playlist, whatever comes to them, they listen. So how does it matter if Nishant Mittal has made it, or if somebody else has made it, or AI has made it? And that's exactly what's happening. So on Spotify, a lot of AI bands or AI musicians are actually putting out their music. These faceless people led by companies, and people are actually listening to it. So what I wanted to do was, because I've been seeing one part of the story for 126 episodes, right? I just wanted to share a contrarian view about these things. That is that creations are meaningless without creators. Bullshit jobs are gonna save human jobs, and so on and so on. Right? It could be true that many folks who'd watch time on reels is greater than watch time for movies? Question mark, says Mr. Tiwari. Yes, yes. So the data says that 95% of the content which is consumed, at least in US, so US shared this data. Shekhar Kapoor, Mr. Shekhar Kapoor, the director, he said that 95% of the content which is being shared by, which is being viewed by people on Instagram, Reels, and so on and so forth, it's basically instant content. It's not like a small device. It's not a proper production movie kind of a thing. So that's what's going on. Uh, anyway, so that's where we started with IT and AI led uh, disruptions, and I just wanted to share a contrarian view that not a lot of things might just get disrupted because a lot of it is just bullshit. And you can't disrupt bullshit. Bullshit exists because it's bullshit. A lot of people, there's something called Sturgeon's Law. You know what's Sturgeon's Law? So Sturgeon, sir, he was Ron Sturgeon. I guess I'm forgetting his name, but he wrote a lot of science fiction. Okay, so he was a science fiction author, and Sturgeon's Law said that 90% of whatever humans make is bullshit, essentially. So the origin of this was that he was a science fiction author, and people in the 60s, 50s, 60s, they started chastising AI. Oh, sorry, science fiction, works. They said science fiction is mostly just crap, right? And it's just bad work and so on and so forth. Now he was a science fiction author, and he said that why is just science fiction crap? Everything is crap. Every genre, 90% of whatever that comes out of that genre is crap. So it's not just science fiction. Everything is bullshit 90% of the times, right? That's what Sturgeon's Law is. Now, if Sturgeon's Law is true, that 90% of what people are doing is just bullshit, right? How do you replace bullshit with AI? Right? So the disruption might just get capped because of the inherent bullshit that we just all keep doing all the time. Right? It's a very, very intellectual, very interesting perspective of like saying that, hey, nothing's gonna happen because most of it doesn't matter, right? So you can't replace what doesn't matter. It's just very, very interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. It opened my mind in a lot of ways. So I had been fixated on the view that, oh, it's gonna lead to losses, it's gonna lead to a lot of problems, people are gonna go out of work, and they're like, you know, nobody gives a shit. Anyway, moving on. India, it's getting its chip in place to ace the semicon game. Indian semiconductor mission is pretty much on steroids. It's going very well. It's going very well in terms of the kind of money it's been able to mobilize, right? If it's been able to mobilize a lot of money, directly, indirectly, it's going to lead to a lot of action. India Semiconductor Mission 1 began in 2021, I guess. It has mobilized over 1.8 lakh crores. 1.8 lakh crores is almost 18 billion dollars. And Semiconductor Mission 2 is going to go full ballistic. So the figures are global semiconductor market is to reach 1 trillion. India's market aims for 50 billion by the end of 2025 and 110 billion by 2030. So 2030, when the global semiconductor market is at 1 trillion, India wants to be at 110 billion, right? So that's what they're trying to do. Major global fabs is fabrication plant is TSMC, that's in Taiwan, right? Samsung Electronics, South Korea. In India push, Tata Electronics is Dholera, and then there's this, Dholera is the fab, and in Assam they're making an OSAT, right? And Foxconn in Jewar OSAT facility, CG Power. So we've talked a lot about this. We don't need to do this again. Micron Technology, assembly and testing in Sanand. So this is happening a lot. It's just an overview that these people try to give, right? Moving on. E-commerce festive sales have tempered down after big September 22 push. Brands and seller analysts expects demand to rebound in a run-up to Diwali. Now, we've talked a lot about it. That the fate of the country rests on its consumption story, and that consumption story is at a, kind of a fork at the road kind of a situation where everything depends on what happens right now, right? As September 22, after September 22, what happens? Nobody knows how it is right now. Nobody knows. It's just very, very hazy. Some numbers come out and they say it's gonna be great. It's great. Like cars, they say it's great. Tier 2 markets, they are great. Tractor sales are great. Whenever rural tractor sales are good, bike sales are good, right? If bike sales are good, tractor sales are good. They say phone supplies are good. Electronics, heavy electronics purchases are nice. Then a contrary figure comes out and says, oh, most of it is SUVs, entry level cars are still not selling, right? Then people say entry level cars are not selling and SUVs are selling probably because roads are bad. Right, and then it becomes a conversation. Then people say, hey, if roads are bad, why are SUVs selling more in China? Right, so the theme for today seems that there are two sides to every data point, right? And right now it's very, very hazy. You don't know how this particular festive season is panning out for anybody, right? At the moment, e-commerce festive sales have tempered and they are expecting a run up in Diwali, uh, right? Online retail sales surged 32 to 35% in the first 2 days, right? And sales in the week starting September 22 accounted for about 51% of total expected festive sales this year, generating 60,000 crore in GMV, 29% rise in the first week of sales compared to the same period last year. So 29% year on year. So this sales period versus the last year's sales period, 29%. That's not what the government was looking at, right? Now that's great. That's not bad, but that's not a tectonic shift. That's not gonna move the needle, right? Now, new viewers of Thinkers Frequency, old viewers know everything, but new viewers might like to understand why this festive consumption sales means the most to India, because India has been there's been a twin uh, uh, retarding force to the Indian economy. Number one is consumption. People are not just buying anything; they're not buying anything. And number two is private capex. Uh, uh, Companies are not spending. Companies are not investing in new facilities. They're not investing in expansion. So private capex, capital expense, not happening. Uh, Now these two are related. Like if there's a lot of consumption, a lot of private capex, a lot of private capex, more jobs, more consumption, and so on. It's an upward spiral, right? But if consumption doesn't happen, private capex doesn't happen, and then it becomes a downward spiral. So we've quoted Mr. Subramanian Swami's 2018 book called Reset, and that's what he said. That India is going through a tailspin, right? No consumption, no private capex, no consumption, no private capex, and it's like a tailspin, like a dog tailspin, right? Uh, so that's why the government rationalized personal income tax, GST, and everything. And because they rationalized everything, they were expecting some magic, right? Now nobody is sure whether that magic has happened as of now or not, right? Now uh, you could predict. Like if I were to predict, I would say, sure, there is some magic. But if somebody asks me, what's your data? I wouldn't have it. Like 30% festive sales is not really magic, right? Moving on. Flipkart group companies cut FY25 losses. Myntra stays on profit track. Myntra has been the only Flipkart company which has had a very nice profitability profile. Uh, what's interesting about Flipkart is that it's a lot of IPO action is going to happen to Flipkart. So if you remember, uh, Flipkart has been a very interesting strategic asset. The company itself has never made money, but its value lied in how much it could stop Amazon from making money in India, right? So first it was a strategic asset for Tiger Global because it just kept getting pumped, right? Even as it lost like 8,000 crores last year, it just kept going up value wise, right? Because not every company is supposed to make money, right? Some companies are valuable because they make other companies lose money, right? So the competitors of those companies invest in you, right? And that's exactly what happened. Because Amazon was thwarted in India by Flipkart, Walmart ended up buying Flipkart. Now Walmart itself, for Walmart, Flipkart was not a cash engine, it was a strategic asset. What that means is that Walmart, it's like a $500 billion company by revenues. $1 billion in losses per year don't make any difference to Walmart's P&L in any way, right? But the value of Flipkart could keep rising, right? So when Walmart bought Flipkart, how much was it valued at? I guess it was valued at $19 billion or $20 billion. I don't remember, but I guess it was some $20 billion valuation when Flipkart got sold. And ever since, now Flipkart is valued at some 40-50 billion dollars, right? It's just been there on Walmart's P&L. It's not been making money. It still loses $1 billion every year, but it's just been growing. Its value has been growing because the market has is a representative of Flipkart, right? At the same time, Flipkart had also acquired PhonePe, which was also a strategic asset. So now Walmart, what it's trying to do is it's gonna IPO PhonePe, which is gonna come out with a $15 billion valuation. PhonePe is getting valued at 15 billion, right? Now, when PhonePe essentially gets valued at $15 billion, it's gonna lead to a lot of paper returns for Walmart as far as P&L is considered. So you look at the financial engineering of this whole play. The company was bought not because of the money it could make, but what it could bring at on the sheets, the books, right, for the valuation upgrades. You understand? Very, very interesting. So Flipkart is gonna go IPO very soon, and PhonePe, Flipkart, all these companies are gonna go. Even though Indian markets are going bleak, right? Nobody knows what's happening with the stock market. Even though the VIX volatility index was low, right? Volatility index, if it's low, means that you don't expect long swings in the market. But it doesn't mean anything, right? Because one bad news coming from the US market about the tariff situation, pharma tariffs, and the whole market went on a toss, right? But despite whatever is happening as far as Indian equities are considered, the IPO market is not slowing down at all. And if IPO market is not slowing down at all of these companies are very excited, right? Because they're going to raise a lot of money. There's going to be a lot of secondary transactions, a lot of primary transactions, because Indians have figured out that IPO is a great market. Now, even if FPIs just go out of the equities business, and FPIs have gone out of Indian equities is like more or less dependent on domestic capital, which is great, right? But when it comes to IPO, even foreign investors are very interested in the Indian business, Indian market, right? So very, very interesting opportunities arising. Spinny is also trimmed its losses. Revenue up 4,500. Spinny is a second-hand car dealership online, right? Losses of 424 crores at a revenue of 4,500 crores. So not a very green company, but you know why it's trimming its losses, right? Because it wants to IPO. So whenever a company wants to IPO, it starts polishing its books and expects the magic to happen. Some comments. Mr. Sharma says, but is not even 29% magic, given that absence of reform it would have been lower? 29% growth, magic. Again, it's just a subjective opinion, right? Like, I would love to believe it's magic. I'd say it's magic because I want my country to have good news every time, all the time, right? But it would be a hard debate to fight. It would be a tough debate. You understand? Because 10, 15, 20% is just given. Indian economy is growing at 7.5% quarter, the 7.8%. 6.5 is just GDP growth rate, right? Nominal growth rate is some 10%. So 29%, no. What would be a magic number for you? Again, it's not my perspective. I think it's great. Right? But objectively, it's not great. So if Mr. Tiwari asks what would be a magical number for me, it would be above 50%. It would be, just imagine the government has taken a hit of 48,000 crores on the GST play, right? They're not really, they're losing out on quite a lot of taxes, right? Now, why did they lose out on all those taxes? Because they expected some consumption play. Like PM Modi comes out and says it's Bachat Divas or what's a Bachat Mahotsav, right? Now, if there is such a nationwide sale going on, is 30% something green for you? I mean, do you think 30% is great? I don't know. I don't know. Right? A lot of people would say that it's not, and it would be a very, very difficult debate. is what I'm saying, right? But we never know. Let's see Diwali. Let's see what happens in a few days. This is an evolving story. Nobody knows what the numbers are. The best way to find out is to just talk to 50 retailers, retail stores, 50 retail stores personally. Now, I have not been able to do that. I've been stuck, but I'd love to do that. I'd love to talk to retailers, 50 retailers from like 5 different areas, 10 uh, retailers from one area each, and it's like kaisa chal raha hai sir, right? And that would be a much better indicator of whatever is going on than these macro numbers, right? So uh, let's see when I get a chance to do that. It'd be fun. Electronic arts, EA Sports is getting taken over. Another reason is that Dashera and Diwali are in the same month, so only one salary to spend. Yeah, interesting perspective, Mr. Tiwari. Sure, can definitely happen. Electronic arts is getting taken over by Silver Lake private equity guys, right? US investors backing from Saudi Arabia and so on. Firm could announce a deal as soon as next week, they said. EA Sports, it's a pretty iconic play. We've played all EA Sports games, right? A lot. So, getting taken over. Moving on. Consumer companies reaping rich rural harvest. So again, as a follow up to that, we've talked about that. Hinterland sales surged. Navratri car sales surged 100 to 133%. Now this is magic, right? September tractor sales expected to rise 30 to 40%. Rural e-commerce TV sales outpace urban. Tier 2 to 4 towns pushing most online growth, right? Now this is magical. So if somebody says the rural car sales growth 100 133%, now that's magical, right? Definitely. So Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai and Tata Motors have seen car sales grow 100 to 133 from before GST reform that rolled out September 22, right? Now year on year number is not mentioned, but that should be more or less in that area, the magic area. So that's going on. So let's put a plug on that story. A lot we've discussed. Moving on, JLR is seeking £2 billion to absorb financial shocks. 3 banks may offer credit line. UK government will guarantee a £1.5 billion loan. So JLR, we've talked a lot about JLR. We've said JLR has been facing some problems. Why? There was a cyber attack due to which its facilities had to get shut down. Because those facilities got shut down, problems happen. Every day the facility stays on the ground. It costs somewhere around £50 million, a lot of money. So the company has lost a lot of money, and JLR essentially makes all the money for Tata Motors. So when you see Tata Motors results here, it's basically JLR, right? So they are getting some sort of shock treatment. Very necessary, very necessary. Tata is also demerging its commercial vehicle and passenger vehicle business. I told you about it. Moving on. September end listing deadline looms large for Tata Sons. So just one day remains now for deadline to lapse on what could be one of the most consequential regulatory interventions in Indian business history. The Indian Central Bank stands that Tata Sons, the holding company of India's largest, should become a public listed company. So people who regular viewers of Thinkers Frequency definitely know about this, right? There's been a lot of concern on the part of Shapurji Palanji Group, who hold some 18-19% of Tata Sons. They wanted Tata Sons to get listed because Tata Sons essentially, they have a lot of debt, man. So they are having a real debt overhang, and that debt overhang isn't making life easy for them at all, right? At all. So what they wanted was that Tata Sons should get listed. So as soon as it gets listed, their problems get solved because they can recast their debt. It becomes easy to refinance and so on and so forth. But Tata Sons doesn't, the Tata family, or let's say Tata part of the group, doesn't want the group to be listed. They want less scrutiny, they want to stay private. And that is a very, very big, conversation point. It's a historic thing, essentially. Potential listing by the holding company of the sprawling 200 billion salt to semiconductors group. This will be an event for far reaching consequences for some of India's best known business trusts and executives. That's what makes this mere possibility a major business story, right? Shapurji Palanji Group will be a big beneficiary if that happens. Most likely it won't. So let's see what happens, right? Uh, Ayurvedic company Kapaiva has bagged a 60 million round. This is nice. You know why this is nice? Why mainstream capital coming to Ayurveda companies is nice? Because this is going to lead to more formal studies that basically legitimize Ayurveda and Ayurvedic principles, or let's say medicines, or so on and so forth. So right now the biggest problem with Ayurveda, if it's not really a problem, it's basically a debating play that people can say that, oh, science, Ayurvedic is not science. You know why is it not science? Because there are not studies affiliated to it. So some dumb people, absolute morons, just there's somebody called liver doc, right? Those kind of people, they say this is not supported by science. And they say, but no, it's working on. It's been working on for hundreds of years. It's been going on for thousands of years. A lot of people benefit. Like even now, day and age, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that supports Ayurvedic, medicines, and people are benefiting. No, but there is no study. There's no clinical study attached to it. So for them, evidence is clinical study, right? So if there is a clinical study, it becomes legitimate. If there is no clinical study, their mind just refuses to believe that clinical studies could not be pure indicators of something, right? Because clinical studies are basically bullshit, right? 50% of all clinical studies are funded by people who are actually making those clinical studies happen, and over 50% of them are not replicable. So 50% of 50% are basically what is there, and then even the meta-analysis doesn't work as it's supposed to, right? So now that a lot of mainstream money is going to be coming to Ayurveda, you're going to see a lot of studies in favor of Ayurveda. And maybe when you see enough studies in favor of Ayurveda, the conversation will get shifted to, oh, it's not scientific, to something else, right? Moving on. India aims to double its auto output in 5 years, right? 200 million vehicles by 2047. Nobody's seen 2047, but they want to be doubling their output in 5 years, which is nice. Moving on. A lot of political chit chat, which we best not discuss. I'm so happy I don't discuss politics, man. Moving on. I hope I'm not missing out on anything. Yeah. So, France faces pressure to slash overseas debt. Mr. Abhishek Sharma asks, I wonder what is stopping Patanjali or Dabur for studies given that they have a lot of funds. That's a good question. So, these people have been, they do fund a lot of studies, I guess, but it's a pretty good question. Why isn't Patanjali, why don't Patanjali companies like Patanjali or Dabur actually fund proper clinical trials, or randomized controlled trials? And why don't they actually try to legitimize it with meta studies and so on and so forth? That's a good question. I think they fundamentally believe in total evidences. They believe that this works, and it's been shown to work. So they are pretty comfortable in not trying to earn respectability in a modern mainstream scientific kind of a way, right? Even though government has moved in that direction. The second answer to that story is that it's pretty new. It's just been 5-10 years that these companies, at least Patanjali, not Dabur, but Patanjali, It's been 5-10 years that these companies have been around, right, in a big mainstream way. And maybe when they get a lot of muscle, they're gonna move forward. So two answers to that story. One is they are not principally for it. Number two, they are new, right? But there's Ministry of Ayush right now, which is trying to move in this direction. So let's see what happens there. Moving on. France is facing pressure because debt is worsening. So it's not, you know, like it can't do AIDS anymore. I mean, AIDS, not the disease, AIDS as in the money that you give to developing economies. Nearly 30% of AFT's aid budget is committed to India, Indo-Pacific region, and it's not going to be able to do that anymore, right? US has already cut US aid and stuff like that, $50 billion. So the aid business is not really going to fly more, right? Moving on. As Apple spreads its branches, 45 companies now plugged into Indian supply chain. So what do we talk about every day, all day at Thinkers Frequency? What is, I'd like to ask this question. When it comes to the way of thinking, what is the fundamental difference in how we talk or how we analyze things as compared to everybody else, right? How can you point out that fundamental difference? Can you think of something that we keep talking about whenever we are analyzing anything, right? What is that one thing that separates us from everybody else? What is that thing? Can you think of something? I'll give you a hint. It's 3 words. Second order effects. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar. Second order effects. So everything, second and third order effects. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, Mr. Kumar. We think about second order effects, right? Not just reading a fact, looking at history as a process, right? Not seeing it as a collection of museum pieces, right? Now look at the second order effects of just Apple coming to India, okay? Apple came to India a few years ago, right? Now Apple has sharply expanded supply chain in India to nearly 45 companies, including local component makers and those who make up sub-assembly ecosystem, right? These component suppliers have so far created 3.5 lakh jobs, including 1,20,000 direct jobs. 1,20,000 direct jobs, 3.5 lakh indirect jobs, right? A fifth year of operations in just 5 years, strongly pivoted to being multiple Indian manufacturers into its supply chain. There are over 20 Indian MSMEs who have now joined Apple's supply chain. And this is 5 years. India's ecosystem produced iPhones worth $45 billion from 2021, 2022 to 2024, 2025. $45 billion, right? And now this is exactly the second order effect of just one company. Now, when you had a PLI announcement of mobile phones in India, do you remember what was happening back then? That happened in 2017. Everybody was mocking India. Everybody said that India is just gonna make old, outdated materials, outdated stuff, right? It's never gonna catch up. Even if it catches up, it's just gonna be an assembly play. It's not really gonna make anything core. It's just because at that time, you know what India used to do was CKD. So you had a phone in China, you broke it down, you got all the pieces, right? You assembled those pieces back here in a shop, right? Completely knocked down. So that was how things begin. That's how things began. And everybody said that's all what the country is gonna do. But somehow, thankfully, powers that be at the time said, no, we've got to start somewhere. And in 2017, we began a mobile phone PLI, right? And soon, from a CKD play, we started making some core components. From some core components, we started making more core components. From more core components, we started making more. And now we have a value addition of somewhere around 20%, 25%, I don't know, 20%. Is it 20% or 28%? I don't know. Somewhere around that area. China has 38%. So things began, right? Now this might seem smart in retrospect or like natural in retrospect. Oh, Nishant, what's the big deal? Why are you harping on this too much? Just last year or last to last year, maybe 18 months ago, max, Raghuram Rajan was talking about semiconductor mission being a joke, right? Despite the evidence of smartphone manufacturing in 2000 from 2017 to 2025, we have like 8 years. He said that whatever semiconductors India makes, they're going to be old, and he is true. Right now, the thing that we've come out, it's 25 years old, right? And it's not going to make any difference. We're going to go low end, and this $10 billion project is better not done. That's what he said. So I surprisingly, it is not as obvious to people. Even people with that education, ID Delhi, MIT, World Bank, and so on, that pedigree, that exposure, somehow it's not obvious to people what magic does second order effects do. So everything becomes much, much easier if you start looking at second and third order effects of things, good or bad, right? Moving on. Branded residency markets. Marriott's, Ritz-Carlton and St. Regis amongst top brands in the India's branded residency market. Now we've talked about this market. Rich people, hospitality, homes, right? Homes and hospitality getting moving on. So now when you've talked about second order effects, second and third order effects, a lot of stuff is happening to Indian pharma. Okay, now Indian pharma has come out with its own readings of the situation. Like US has given 100% tariff on branded and patented works, right? India supplies mostly generic. These people mostly generic, right? And they say that if US essentially harms us, or if US harms the generic supplies of India, or if it tariffs generic supplies of India, it's gonna harm US itself, because we've saved a lot of money for US. So they say, let me pull that article out to get some data points right. Some interesting data points they threw. Now, why do you think is Indian pharma essentially in that place where it's getting chastised like this, right? It's getting castigated. It's getting castigated because of real quality concerns. So they really screwed up in a lot of ways, right? They didn't upgrade their stack, their manufacturing abilities. They made a lot of mistakes, right? A lot of cough syrups that they sent to sub-Saharan African countries led to children dying, and so on and so forth. Some quality control issues creeped in, and they didn't really invest a lot in R&D for a lot of time, right? Due to which we kept being dependent on China for APIs and KSMs, right? Starting materials, active pharmaceutical ingredients. And now that particular bit is coming to bite the whole industry in, in a very, very big way. So they're saying Indian generics safe, tariffs unwise. Okay, so some numbers. In its strongest point-wise rebuttal in recent years, Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance, a body of 23 leading Indian generic makers, right, testified to a US Senate special committee its unwavering commitment to the quality of medicines, and how over the last decade alone, those helped save billions of dollars for US. So they've said we've been saving billions of dollars for US. How? Some numbers. Generic drugs from Indian companies have saved US patients and healthcare system an estimated $219 billion in 2022 alone, right? And between 2013 to 2022, it contributed to more than $1.4 trillion in GDP, right? Issue of quality drugs from India, quality of drugs, which supplies 10 billion worth of medicines. Mr. Abhishek Sharma has a big comment. For generics, someone can replace India. Maybe US itself can start manufacturing generics down the line, or even China via other country having lower tariffs can come in the picture. The generics, there's a lot of supply chain issues, but the point is, The US, what it said was that a campaign by US based activists and academic experts who raised an alarm of national security risks from pharmaceutical supply that over relies on China. India said that, we've really begun API and KSM joint investments to move out of China. So now the question is, everybody's asking, why now? Why not earlier? Why are these? Because if you viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, the government has mandated the pharmaceutical players, the MSMEs, to abide by new quality control norms, and even those norms imposed right now, the association of those pharmaceutical manufacturers is saying that we'll have to shut shop. We can't do this so quickly. We have capital constraints and so on and so forth, right? Now, what is the second order effect of Indian generics going out of business, if at all they do? It's very unlikely, because it's basically a cost arbitrage, right? US wouldn't want to make generic medicines. US would want to make its own APIs, its own KSMs, have some control over manufacturing of medicines. Maybe not generics, maybe yes. But what happens if Indian pharma is touched? Right now, it's not, right? Right now, the tariffs on patented branded medicines that US has given, it's not gonna hurt India. But what if it does? What if they actually move forward in this direction? It's gonna be a really, really big problem for the country, right? Really big problem. And it could have been averted if the country or if the industry was proactive in going up the chain, right? Which unfortunately for many, many, many decades, at least two, they did. Food processing to get 1.02 lakh crores from government, so there's a lot of money flowing in. Government inks pacts with 20 global and local companies for food processing. MOUs over the course of this 4-day event. There was an event, right? The summit, right? MOUs worth total 1.02 lakh crores have been signed. So a lot of companies investing in a lot of food processing units in India, which is a good thing. Moving on. A lot of interesting things happening with Tata, as we discussed. Moving on. We already discussed about the markets, right? Some problems. How IPO is great, markets are choppy. Gold is good, as we said. There's nothing happening to gold right now, because it's just crazy whatever is happening in the world right now. Don't you think? We'll come to that. Moving on. Yeah. So this is the article which screwed me. Center's borrowing calendar bodes well for bond market. Eyes now on state's plan. So lower net issuance and reduced far-term sales fuel optimism in the market despite near-term pressure from increased supply of 5 to 10-year-old bonds. So, now this was a very complicated sell because the government has said that it's going to borrow 6.7 lakh crores in October 25 to March 26 period, H2, slightly lower than 6.82 lakhs as indicated earlier, right? And most of these bonds that the government is going to have are not going to be long-term bonds, right? They're not going to be 30-year, 15-year bonds. They're going to be 5 or 10-year bonds, due to which the lack of supply in those particular bonds will make their yield go up. The prices go, the yields go down, prices go up, and it's going to be safe for bond players, right? The long-term guys. Meanwhile, the short-term guys will be happy because these new issuances will essentially bring their prices down and their yields up. So the bond market will be stable because of the nature of mix of bonds that the government is gonna essentially issue and the kind of money that the government is gonna borrow. You understand what I'm saying? So these people had written share of bonds maturing in 30 years and above in the borrowing in the second half is set at 35%, lower than 29% in the first half. I'm like, this, what does this mean? And now I find out that this is basically an error, right? So 30 years, the share of 30-year bonds is going to go down from, you know, 35 to 29%. And reducing sales of far term bonds was always going to imply an increase in sales of 5 to 10-year-old bonds, which would be negative for those specific tenors, especially in the near term. Yeah, sure. So if you reduce long term bonds, the positive is that not a lot of money gets logged into long term bonds like a 30-year bond, right? So money doesn't get logged long term. But because you don't issue long term bonds, so you issue short term bonds, like shorter term bonds, 5, 10, 15 year, 5, 10 years. Now that bond supply gets good, right? So if a lot of bonds get supplied, what happens is the prices of bond goes low, the yield goes up, right? So that becomes a problem. So moving on, I hope I'm not screwing up anything here. Net positive for bonds with yields on longer bonds falling and short term going up. So yeah, I'm right, no problem. Moving on, this particular article wasted like 25 minutes of mine. Every minute is very important in the morning. It took a lot of time. Moving on. Fireworks continue in retail as tax cuts keep buyers in good spirit. Demand for fashion electronics up 20% in sales over the weekend. North-south surge. Right? Online sales growing at 30% year on year. Moving on. Balaji wafers were selling some stake, right, for at 40 to 45,000 valuation. Turns out that these equity guys, private equity players, are not really positive of that, so they won't buy it. And the Balaji Empire family says it's okay, we don't want to sell, right? At a lower valuation, we can sell a lower stake, smaller stake, but if you're selling 10%, we would need a higher valuation, a 40 to 45,000 valuation, right? No hurry to sell. Virani. Whenever it comes out like Virani Khandan, I get reminded of Kyuki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi, right? Snacks firm owner says open to considering selling stake lower than 10% at a lower valuation. However, 40 to 45,000 crore is the valuation at which 10% is gonna go. They've gotten a lot of exuberance because of Haldiram's successful stake. Haldiram's also did that, pretty much this, they played hardball, they opened themselves up to the market, went with the aspect of, hey, we are selling out, got great deals and then didn't end up selling out. So let's see if Viranis can pull on Agarwal, right? Haldiram guys. Moving on. Yeah. There's a company called Suntech Reality. They are buying Dubai lands and developing ultra luxury homes. This is probably the first time an Indian real estate company has gone to Dubai, and it's expanded outside, making ultra luxury or basically housing projects outside India. Indian developers have rarely ventured overseas with luxury projects, making this a key step for Suntech in diversifying beyond domestic market. So a lot of action happening as far as real estate is considered, but that is never a news. Never a news. Moving on. Yeah. Southern states account for 58% of India's whiskey sales in FY25. So we've talked a lot about alcohol market and how it's not really kicking it, right? Alcohol market globally is going down. Not many people are drinking as much as before, right? And it's a bit of a concern. And the only way to fight that concern is to premiumize. That's what the government has, that's what the industry has been trying to do. It's been premiumizing. Premiumize, right? What you want to be doing is essentially from unbranded liquor, you want people to jump to branded liquor, right? And people who are going to branded liquor, you want to get to premium brands and so on and so forth. That's a way to save a falling industry, right? In that particular story, South Indian states have dominated the sales of IMFL. IMFL is Indian Manufactured Foreign Liquor. 58% revenue, right? South Indians' dominance is near absolute in IMFL sales. Rest of India is at 52. Wow, thank you for that math. 100 minus 58, 42. However, on the pan-India level, sales volume of IMFL whiskey has slowed to 1.4%. Right? 1.4%. So that's what's going on. As a lot of people found it very surprising when I first told them at Thinker's Frequency that alcohol is actually going down. They were like, what? No. But yeah, that is true. Moving on. Speaking of the global matters, which is going to lead to gold going up, right? Gold is definitely going to go up, and it's going to be a very, very big problem for the markets in general, not just Indian markets, but a lot of markets, because nobody knows what's going to happen, right? Iran is facing renewed UN sanctions. UN is a joke, by the way. UN is I don't want to use an F word because, we're not going to do that, but UN is a joke. UN recently had like a proper terrorist, wear a suit and stuff and give a speech and stuff. So it was just very, very weird. Like that guy had pictures of two beheaded, like he had pictures with two heads, decapitated heads, right? And he was wearing a suit and giving a speech at UN and people were applauding and shit. It was just unbelievable. UN is basically League of Nations, right? From the pre-World War era. There is nothing more pointless, useless, and decorated than UN, I think. And the whole world is going crazy. Iran is facing renewed sanctions. Kyiv is getting hit hard by Russia, is going full ballistic. A lot of there's Israel and Gaza thing happening, 66,000 people and stuff. US and Israel getting a lot of pushback for whatever is happening. Has the whole world gone crazy? This reminds me of the Big Lebowski. Has anybody watched Big Lebowski? Big Lebowski, Coen Brothers, Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, John Turturro. No? He says, am I the only one here who gives a shit about the rules? Has the whole world gone crazy? It's like, that's exactly what's going on with the world right now. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows. But whatever happens, as Mr. Nassim Taleb says, the way to think about future is not to thoughts on possibility of decline in gold, silver prices when there's stabilization, once wars are over, right? But that's not happening, right? And once wars it's not happening at all. There are no signs of things stabilizing there. And even if the wars get stabilized, what about the financial markets? That is still in trouble, right? The whole dollar play, the whole financial, right now what's happening is a lot of war action is going on, so a lot of economic flux is happening because of war, right? Once that subsides, you're gonna see even more trouble financial world. So as Nassim Taleb says, right, you can't predict when the tail risk is gonna occur, but you can position yourself to actually benefit from it. So even if the whole world goes for a toss tomorrow, what would be your position? It would be good if you held gold, right? And what if you're holding gold, but what if the world doesn't go on a toss tomorrow, right? The gold will lose like what, 5%? You understand? So basically hedging for the future in an uncertain world. That's Mr. Nassim Taleb's life's work. As we discussed, right, there is a matrix of known and unknown, known and unknown. So there is known, that you are aware about something, you understand it. It's cool. There is known unknown, that you're aware about something but don't understand it. That's also not a problem, but because you can always understand it, right? Then there is unknown known, that you're not aware about something, right? You don't know, but you understand it. Like a child knows how to ride a bicycle. He doesn't know the mechanics of it, but he knows how it's working for him. So that's slightly dangerous. And then there is unknown. You don't know what you don't know, right? And the value lies in hedging yourself. on that unknown because that's what screws everybody. With that, we come to the end of the 127th episode of Thinker's Frequency. I hope you had fun, guys. I hope it added a lot of value to you. It definitely added a lot of value to me. I read a lot because of you. And our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9:18. We should punch in. I was late. I'm sorry. I need to thank Mr. Sumant Kumar, Mr. Abhishek Sharma, Mr. Tushar Tiwari, and everybody else who joined. Thank you so much. I hope it was great. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Bye bye.